Mrs. Hanabuso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it Furchtgott-Roth?
Furchtgott-Roth, yes.
Furchtgott-Roth. Did I hear you correctly when you said that you do not believe that we should be doing any funding of alternative or renewable energy sources?
Yes, I don't believe the government should be funding alternative energy sources, correct.
So, for example, I represent Hawaii. Our natural energy, if you could call it that, is the volcano, geothermal, possibly. But, everything else. We have wonderful sun, we have great waves, and, we have, of course, geothermal. So why would you feel that it would be a waste of government's money to fund the development of those kinds of alternative energy, including, by the way, algae, which the Defense Department has put a lot of money in because that is the one area that we might be able to create quote-unquote jet-quality fuel. So why do you feel that it's a waste of government's money to be completely or to move to a renewable energy source versus, for example, the Keystone Pipeline or something other than that?
Because there's plenty of useful technology, such as this, for example, such as the iPad, the iPhone, that many Americans have that are not funded.
That's not going to fuel cars, and it's not going to fuel jets, and it's not going to make our carriers move, because, we are the home of the Pacific Command. So I want to know why you feel that it would be a waste of government's money to invest in any kind of development of alternative energy.
Oh, because if it's a worthwhile project, the private sector will find the resources and invest in it. And I can imagine a market for solar in Hawaii without federal government funding. There are many, many solar power companies, and with all its sun, Hawaii seems an ideal place for this.
So you feel that, for example, tax credits that we're discussing here about for alternative energy, for development of photovoltaics and so forth, should not be part of any kind of an investment into the future so that we would become independent of fossil fuels. You seem to be tied to fossil fuels from what I hear you say. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'm an economist, so I don't feel. But I believe.
Mr. Kelleher, I have a question of you. In what you said, it seems to me that it's very evident that you're talking about almost a two-tier system here. One is how do we affect prices of gas immediately? And you seem to say, we've got to look at the commodities, we've got to look at speculation. That's one thing. And the other issue is how do we address this in terms of the long term, which is the supply, which seems to be the Keystone Pipeline, that kind of shale, that type of discussion. Am I understanding you correctly that if we want to tell the consumers today, our constituents, this is how we're going to address the gas prices today, is to look at how that gas price is being affected now? Am I understanding you correctly?
Yes, and in fact, if you address the issue of excess speculation in the markets, which affect the physical prices every day, there's no dispute about that. If you take the excess speculation out of the market, it's going to bring prices down and provide some relief at the pump today. But it's also going to make intelligent, informed capital decisions by the private sector on the supply and demand side. Whether or not offshore drilling for Virginia or anywhere else makes sense is an economic decision as to how much it's going to cost them and what they're going to get on their return. They should know, and everybody else should know, that what that price is without the extra padding which comes from the excess speculation, which is largely from commodity index funds, which is this newfangled product Wall Street has pumped into the market since about 2004, 2005. And if you look at the third chart that I put up, which shows WTI prices from 1990 to date, it shows relatively flat prices over that time with spikes due to direct supply and demand disruptions, the first Iraq War, for example, and things like that. We need to get back to where the pricing in the markets reflect fundamentals in supply and demand, not including a premium for Wall Street that comes from excess speculation. That's good for the private sector, that's good for the public sector, and it's certainly good for taking care of pain at the pump, and it can do so quickly.
And that's what I want to get to again, which is that if we're going to do something immediately for the consumer, we should look at the speculation aspect. Now, I've heard Mr. Holt there say that he was actually for the long-term impact of renewable energy. How do you feel the role of renewable energy or alternative energy plays in the pricing of our fuel costs?
Well, until it gets the equal treatment with fossil fuels. We have to remember fossil fuels have been subsidized to the tune of many, many, many billions of dollars since the beginning of the 19th century. We have a fossil fuel industry today because it was subsidized and basically cradled, rocked by the federal government and with kid gloves with subsidies and all sorts of favorable treatment for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. And yes, we're down to $4 billion or something in subsidies today, but that's not where it started. Renewables and energy efficiency absolutely should, if they got the same treatment, then you would see the percentage of the marketplace of renewables and energy efficient appliances would be dramatically higher today if they were just treated and incubated like the oil industry.
Thank you, Mr. Kelleher. My time is up, and I'd just like to say that if we followed Ms. Roth's theory of letting it go to the private sector, that we wouldn't be there with fossil fuel either. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.